It's Nora Fiffer. It's Nora Fiffer. She's here. She's here. She's here. I don't sing for everyone. I need you to know that.
Thank you.
I don't sing for just anyone, lady. I haven't seen you in maybe, I don't know, is it 15 years?
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
you look great.
You look great.
Thanks. You look exactly the same to me. Is that because my eyeballs are faulty, or is it because like we just look the same as 15 years ago?
I absolutely think we look the same. We looked fabulous then and now and
fabulous. Fabulous now. We're just fabulous. Cheers to your kombucha, Nora.
Oh, what are you drinking?
You know what? I'm drinking water out of a plastic bottle. Is that kosher? The answer is no. It's not. You're not supposed to do such things, but you do have to hydrate.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
All right. So now that we sipped, may I ask you to please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, I am Nora Fiffer. I am a theater director and film director, and I have 2 small children.
Oh my gosh, Nora. First of all, the last time we spoke was 15 years ago in college. And you were an actress. You were a beautiful actress. Oh my gosh. You moved all the way to Chicago to do theater and live a real artist's life. You really did sidestep the New York hustle. You were like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it my way. Are you from Chicago?
I am from Chicago. So I love that perspective of it, because of course I often thought about living in New York and staying in New York. That was where my community was,
Yeah, you did live in New York.
Yeah.
You lived at NYU.
Yeah. I always wondered what it would be like to have my professional theater career in New York, because it did feel really different in Chicago. I loved living and working in Chicago too.
Do you not live there anymore?
I don't live there anymore.
Where do you live?
I live in New Hampshire.
Can you see
I don't know if you can see the trees.
I see a lot of space is what I see. I see more space than, let's just say, New York City or Chicago.
Yeah.
A lot of space to think and be creative and have 2 children.
That's right. And my husband is from New Hampshire, which is what motivated the move here a few years ago. And I run a theater company out here, an experimental sort of immersive style theater company called Firelight.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Mm-hmm. I just did an experimental play of Measure for Measure in a black box theater in Brooklyn for me. You know what I mean? Sometimes you just got to do it for me.
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
Is it your project? You were the engine behind it?
I was not the engine behind it, but I got to play a clown, like a Shakespearean clown in Measure for Measure, which is like inherently a problematic play, but also like from the perspective, like from a modern perspective, it's also like, it's like bad. It's like very woman hating.
Yeah.
So there were experimental elements. And also, the clown is always like the truth teller in like a funny way. So that was cool. I got to play that. And that was a gender bended casting. But I say it was for me just because, like, I don't know. I feel like, I have 2 kids also. My older son is 5.5. And, for the past, 6 years, it feels like everything I do has to have some sort of bottom line, either financially or, impact or whatever it is, because my time is limited and because of, resources, etc. But this play was like only for me.
Wow.
Like it was like there was an audience. There was definitely a cast and, the wonderful company that I worked for, but it was for me. To do for me.
I really relate to that calculation of, okay, is this where I can spend my time right now? Am I allowed to spend my time here? Mm-hmm. It has to check many boxes in order for it to take a parent's time.
Yeah.
So that is amazing that you did that for you. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I reached out is because some random mutual friend posted about your film. This is your first film, right? Your debut, directorial debut.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She posted about your feature film. I mean, she's a mutual friend because she's also an actress. And she was just like, what? These people are doing 8-hour days and providing childcare? And I was like, what? That's Nora Pfeiffer? I thought Nora was still an actress
Uh-huh.
because you were like just such a beautiful actress.
Oh my God.
I didn't know that you're a director now.
Yeah.
But also, I didn't know that you work in film. Like, this was all news to me. And I was like, let's unpack it in front of everyone.
Let's do it.
Okay?
Let's get
Okay,
into
go.
it. Yeah.
Okay, here's the mic. Go for it.
Well, I still consider myself an actor, but it's once I became a mother, things started to change. And I didn't have the same appetite for acting as I assumed that I would. Because there was this new calculation of time. And not only was it a hard transition to become a mother with identity and recovery and all the kinds of things that are surprises when you become a mother, even when you're planning to be, even when you want to be, these things they can still be really blindsiding. So I was living in Chicago and I was acting, and actually I was in a play, a really meaningful play when I was early in my pregnancy. And I was so early that I only told the fight choreographer just to protect myself, but I didn't want anyone else to know. It was too soon. So I sort of assumed that after becoming a mother, I would continue to get back into theater once recovered and all that. And I had received a call from a theater where I had never worked, and I'd really wanted to work there. And they offered me a part in their upcoming show, and I hadn't auditioned for it. And that was like a new, like, professional milestone. I was like, oh, whoa, this is cool to just be called and offered a role. And so I accepted. And I mentioned in our second conversation with the casting director, I mentioned that I was pregnant and that I would be 6 months pregnant during the run of the show. And from my perspective, it had no bearing on the character. It was Meep in Diary of Anne Frank, actually, which I think is hilarious because to be cast as the non-Jewish character in that play is really funny to me. When the rest of the cast was not Jewish, playing Jewish, and there I was being offered Meep.
Yeah, I just have to say that, like, I have like a whole dissertation on Jewish casting, and it is.
I would love to hear that.
Yeah, no, like I legit am working on a whole dissertation on it, because I think it's actually pretty problematic in terms of the way the world sees Jews, right? Like everyone's saying, like, "Oh, we're white," and you're like, well, if you would let the world know what we look and sound like, actually, maybe you, right? Anyway, and also, let's just to whittle it down, we'll just say like, and also like Jewish writers are casting non-Jewish actors to play Jewish characters, and we're just like, the self-hatred is so deep. Anyhow, also we just
like an iconic Jewish story like the Diary of Anne Frank. Like, please cast a Jewish Anne Frank, please.
Yeah. Oh, please just cast it right. But then would she be likable? Oh no.
Oh God.
Also, Jews have red hair. I mean, my friend Jessie also talks about this, how she's like the most Jewish person that ever lived. But you know, her mother converted, and she has red hair, as you know, Jessica Weiss.
Yeah.
So she would like in The Merchant of Venice, she plays Nerissa, and like, you know, our friend who's Italian played Jessica, who's the Jewish girl, and it's just like, oh my God, you guys, we are just like perpetuating stereotype on stereotype. Like, who's gonna stop this?
Yeah. There's so much. There's so much. Well,
but Meep could totally have been.
So the casting director, when I told her that I was pregnant, she said, "Well, I think it's not going to work out," and I completely, in that moment, was complicit and was like, "Oh, of course! Like you're absolutely right. What was I thinking? To be working and pregnant at the same time? How absurd to imagine."
Actually, like pregnancy is like the model of health. Exactly. When you can make a body out of your body, you're doing great.
Totally. And I'd already been working through the first trimester. So it seemed, and so this casting director who was a mother of 4, I trusted her. I didn't even know her, but I trusted her, that she knew something that I didn't. And it really took me a long time to recognize that I had sort of I've been complicit in my own withdrawal of my professional life. And it took me a while to even understand what it was I was after anymore. The theater life didn't entice me anymore, like the schedule.
It's so hard. It was so hard. My
for
body,
me.
even though that what that Shakespeare play was for me, like
Yeah.
my body was so tired. My body. Yeah.
How old are both of your kids? You have a 5.5-year-old, and how old's your
And a
younger?
3-year-old.
I have a 3-year-old
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
And I just want to say, just like to let the audience in on Nora. Nora is like top tier theater actress, like spent, I guess 2 decades, like play after play after play. So I just want to say, like, this is like what it is. This is what it is,
Thanks, Daniela. That really means a lot. Thanks.
And not
Yeah.
just theater actress, theater artist. Here you are, the artistic director of a theater out in New Hampshire, because you have so much experience. Yeah.
Thank you. That really means a lot. I mean, I think it was a huge identity shift. I mean, I think anyone cresting over into motherhood is going to face some identity shifts. I think, being an artist and a mother, or being on any path where it's not clear how you hook back into that path after you have to either take some time off, or people see you differently, or your body changes, or whatever the changes that you experience are. Like, I think unless there's some sort of prescriptive, you have this maternity leave and then we're expecting you back to work at this time and business as usual, I think even that would be super challenging. But if there isn't a clear path, if you're making it as you go, it was tricky for me, because it gave me an opportunity to really question what it is I wanted to be doing, and what was worth the time. And also, I started, in some ways, I think I really started devaluing my time right away. I thought, well, if I'm not somehow compensating for the childcare that I would need in order to leave my baby with someone else, which I have a feeling, I think economics drive a lot of where we're at with parenting roles. And so certainly as an actor who, isn't making, I'm not the breadwinner of the family, it makes sense to be home. It makes sense. And then that becomes a sort of ongoing mantra. Oh, well, it just makes sense. And then all of a sudden time goes by and it's been a while since you've done the thing that you're trained to do, that you're good at, that you love, all those things.
And like, how much sense does that really make?
How much in the long run? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, even in the short term, but I mean, I felt like with my first child, like I really wanted to be there all the time. And I feel similarly with my second, but no, not. Because I'm more tired. And I also recognize that, like, oh my goodness, my happiness is actually what they want. They want it way more than a home-cooked meal. They want it more than a cuddle. That's the truth. They really do want it more than me putting them to bed. They want to know that their mother is fulfilled and that they're not detracting in any way. But, that takes time to sink in.
Yeah, if only we could raise our second children like, our first children like our second children. I kept trying to pretend like, if I had another child right now, would I be more relaxed? Trying to parent my first child like as if I'd been through it before, because all the newness of it was so challenging. And I do parent differently having a second child. I mean, I am much more, it's easier to walk out the door and do my own thing than it was even though there are two of them, than it was.
I know, and it looks like it's their personality, but in fact, it's like, oh, I'm not like projecting. I'm not like throwing my guilt and stress all over your tiny being before I leave. You're just like, yeah. All right, back to you.
So when I'd already been sort of experimenting in writing and directing as a little bit before, I guess, I got pregnant. I had co-created a web series, and I had gotten a taste of what that was like to be the engine behind something. It started out as sort of an experiment, but then I really liked it, and I liked the whole process, writing it with my partner and then directing it, acting, and it was way too many hats, and then being in the room for the edit and everything. It was way, way too many hats, but it was such a great crash course on the cycle of a project. So I knew that I wanted to keep writing, and that felt really compatible with being a new parent. So, I mean, like in a way that I didn't have to like be at rehearsal at a particular time or go on an audition if I didn't feel like going on an audition. So not to say that I had energy or ideas right away, but I did feel like, okay, I think writing is something that could be on the plate.
Well, that's an idea. That in and of itself is an idea.
It shows some sign of creative juices flowing, just knowing that it's possible. Mm-hmm. And I did find the postpartum time so absurd. The kinds of places I would crouch in stillness just to not wake up my baby, you know, the ridiculous things we put ourselves through. I had to laugh because otherwise it was just like too depressing. So I did start scrawling some notes in the middle of the night at times, like, okay, I have to, I will probably forget this if I don't write a few of these moments down. And it really took, until my daughter was 1.5 years to finally have one morning a week of childcare. It just like the mechanics of it didn't work out. You know,
luxury.
I know. And it was for a trade with another mother. So I was watching.
That's so smart.
It was fabulous. And they became really close friends. That was after we had moved to New Hampshire. And I really didn't know anyone out here. It was a bit of a fresh start in the sense that I didn't have to introduce myself as an actor and it didn't carry as, you know, the same kinds of things as it would in a city. For better or worse. And but I wasn't sure how to identify because acting had been a part of my life forever. So at first I thought, you know, will I choose to identify myself as a writer? I really haven't, you know, I'm still at the beginning of that. I really didn't know. But what I did do was I kept writing this idea of this new mother. And it was coming out as a comedy, which I really leaned into, because I feel like a comedic lens can ask a lot of people to the table. I mean, I think sometimes when there's a difficult topic like the postpartum experience, whether it's postpartum depression or not, the postpartum experience is a tough one because it carries a lot of like private feelings.
It's gross.
And it's gross.
The fluids.
Right? I know,
the
right?
Stitches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's gross. I mean, here's the thing. What's so crazy is it's life. You know, I think we've been sanitized so profoundly that like both you and I could be like, it's fucking gross. And like, really, it's literal life.
Yeah.
You know, like the rawest bits of it. But you know, we don't live in a world where that's sacred, so we have to do something else, like similar to the Shakespearean clown. We have to tell the truth in a funny way, because that's the balm. That's Absolutely. The way we can, you know, like that's the syrup around the medicine.
Exactly. And you can surprise people that way. You can say, come on in, I'm going to tell you a joke. While you're here, I'm going to hit you with some truth. And hopefully you'll be a little changed by it, or you'll have been listening so hard because you were laughing and paying attention. And like your guard comes down a little when you're laughing, right? You don't have to put up the walls like, oh, something scary or depressing is going to happen. Like, I just want to, you know, you're choosing to be there somehow. So I leaned into the comedy of it. I love the idea of the clown, because the clowns are always, they've got the goods of the truth. So I spent a lot of time writing it, because I wasn't sure what the plan was with it. Initially I was like, well, maybe someone will want to do it and I'll just like put it out there and someone else will
sell it.
Yeah,
exactly.
You
could sell it. Someone will direct it and package it. And
this will have been my contribution to that project. I will have written it.
Great.
And the deeper in I got, like, I was like, okay, first of all, no one is asking to buy this script. And second of all, I have a pretty good handle on what the tone is and what the vision is. The deeper in I was, the more it made sense to direct it. And I had been a bit taking myself to school on the directing front, with classes and experimenting with short films out here and stuff. So just so I had a bit more of a vocabulary.
And your
Yeah.
children were older, so the bandwidth was
Well,
returning or not as much?
so they're 7 and 4. So
Mm,
the I was able to start to develop the film when my daughter was a little bit older, but then the project, the cycle of the project, like it hit a wall, and then I had to kind of restart because we lost somebody who was involved, and um, uh, then I had my son, so I was kind of back to it again, and then the pandemic. So I mean, then there was like that backslide.
I
So
mean, Nora, we are just so lucky. We're like just so blessed. And like the timing of our lives is just like easy peasy. Because we just like, you know what
oh
I
my god,
mean?
do you
It's
okay
happening for us, not to us. You know what I'm saying?
when I hear the ages of people's kids, I immediately do a math equation of how old they were when the pandemic started, and then just feel sad for the person because it doesn't matter how old your kids were during the pandemic; it was hard. But I like to just like, figure out, okay, so you have a 5.5-year-old and a 3-year-old, so your life was really, really hard in 2020.
really bad, like
Yeah,
bad, BAD bad.
yeah.
Um,
Yep.
I actually, so I live in like Brooklyn, and there's these cute hipster parents, and I don't know what's going on, but I see like a lot of babies lately. And I think about 9, 10 months ago, people were
Oh
like,
yeah.
"We're in the clear, let's stop," or something. But like, it's like very clear that everyone was holding their breath.
Yeah.
I'm really impressed with people who are having kids now. It takes like such a huge amount of optimism.
I totally. Yeah. Yeah. I really feel like, I, so when 2020 happened, I do feel like I was hearing from my male friends more, of their sort of struggle, their professional struggle, their family struggle, that there was this, like, I'm not an agent of my own time. Like I have to be with my kids more than I ever have been. And I feel guilty that I don't want to be. I was like, you're experiencing postpartum depression. You
Yeah,
haven't experienced this yet, but
yeah.
this is like the lack of control becoming a mother in particular, I think becoming a parent in general, but um, uh, that to be, I felt more prepared. I mean, the pandemic was, it went through many, stages in 2020 and 2021 for our family and for me personally. So there were highs and lows, of course, um, but I did feel like I'd been through it before. I felt like, okay, this is a familiar feeling. I feel like such a lack of control that sometimes that was really hard to know, like what it felt like, oh, I don't like this. Oh, no, this is a dark place. I don't like this place. But I also felt like, okay, if I've been here before, I also know like that there's another, that it goes in waves and.
I do think our men actually did experience a big lesson in family life,
Yeah.
which
Oh,
I think is an up level for
yeah, I
the
just,
planet. I really do.
yeah,
Yeah, not to
yeah,
sugarcoat, but I do.
yeah,
If we are looking back, right? You were talking about all these male friends reporting
yeah.
like the guilt and the tug and pull, family life, and making money and all of that, right? That is such a feminine experience, and they were like stewing in it, just like the rest of us.
Yes.
Yeah,
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 I think there continues to be, but it's certainly in those acute years, there was a lot of growing pains, but hopefully some growing.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, so when the film, because I'd never done this before, I also like part of the decision to direct was also that as I was looking for financing, which I had never ever done before, I'd never sought
Yeah.
financing for a project.
Yeah, it's hard.
The people that I was reaching out to were people that were in my own sort of, either a person in my own orbit or 1 degree removed. So I had to convince them of the project based on me. I had better luck talking about how involved I was, even if I was a new director,
Right.
rather than try and not only sell the project to them, but also sell them on a maybe more experienced director who they had no buy-in personally for. So they
What a
were
lesson.
interested in, yeah. I mean, it is really interesting. I feel like I learned so much about fundraising, and I continue to. It still feels like probably every project works differently. But they were buying into me as the writer, as the engine of the story and all that. So it was fitting to be the director of it too.
I mean, look at us, right? I saw that post. She was amazed by your production and your, and I'd love to get into those decisions at some point, at some point in this conversation. But right, why did I ask you on? Because I've always been a fan of yours. Like, isn't that such a lesson? Like, here I was 15 years thinking about Nora Fiffer and genuinely being a fan of hers and always thinking well and wishing well and wanting to meet and, right? Like, there are people in this world who just love us. We have no idea where they are, who they are, how we're going to cross paths. But they were just waiting for you to say, hey, would you mind tossing $1 my way so I can make art? They didn't want anyone but you.
Yeah, that is really, I love thinking about it that way. And that no one was forcing them to do it. It is a choice. And they, some people didn't choose to invest and some people did. And those that did, they want to. They clearly want to. Otherwise, they wouldn't. Yeah. So it's a lesson to ask, which is nice.
It is a lesson to ask, yeah.
That is not
we talk about that all the time, about like asking for support.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Mothers need support. People need support. Yeah. Actually, I'll let you in on this lesson that I learned. I was like doing a coaching with this like acting guru. I love her. She has her own podcast. It's called Audrey Helps Actors, and she's fantastic. And we did a coaching together, and I was like, what is the landscape? Like, I am so confused. And we talked, and we definitely talked about not being a mother, living in New York City, all of it. And she was just like, I want to tell you about something. Oprah bankrupt all of those Oprah favorite things, businesses. Did you know that?
No.
I was like, what do you mean? No, I didn't know this. She said, so all of those businesses had huge exposure, and they weren't set up for that level of success.
My God.
It was either a production problem or some sort of internal, issue, but they couldn't provide the supply for the demand they were experiencing because they didn't have enough support.
Oh God, that's devastating.
Isn't that incredible?
Oh God.
Yeah. So she's like, listen, all you want is available to you. You just need to make an effort to get enough support for when it hits.
Yeah. That is an amazing lesson that I think we probably all need to learn and relearn. I'm even now having 2 kids. I don't think I'm sure I've gotten better at asking for support, but it still isn't something that comes easily. I don't think.
No, I don't think it does for any of us. I don't think we were taught it by our own parents. I don't think we're taught it by society. I think we're like really conditioned to believe that like our strength in getting through it is, really valuable. I actually think like the braver thing is to ask for the money for the project. It's really brave.
It's amazing that like the will becomes a little stronger than the fear. Like it just press over enough to be like, I think I have to do this in order for it to happen. I think I have to do this really, really uncomfortable thing and probably like fail a lot along the way. I'm really glad that part's over. Really, that was not fun.
The money part. Yeah, it's not fun. I'm so glad you did it.
The highs and the lows and still like we're still, I mean, it's not over. We're still, but yeah, getting to production, that road of like, oh, we have this funder. Okay. Oh no, we don't. Okay. We got this location. Nope. We lost it. All that roller coaster ride. But in terms of asking for help, like I often think like, gosh, I wish I had more support or more awareness, or like just that I had been better prepared for becoming a mother, because I'd always wanted to be a mom. I was like, why is this so hard? Am I just bad at this transition? Like, I mean, like but I didn't really have any other local friends that were becoming parents. I had friends of different ages and no one really at that same stage of life. So I didn't have a peer going through it at that time. And so I just didn't know what was normal, what wasn't. And it's just, of course, exhausting thinking about like all of the questions,
That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this podcast.
I know,
We're giving them all a heads up.
I know
It's an incredible mission. And I also think that art does the same thing, that your film, and if you can actually just walk us through what the name of it is, who it's starring, and all of that stuff. But I believe that art also is a heads up, like if we can see, especially when it's given in a humorous way, I just really believe in the power of comedy.
Yes.
And I believe in the power of sisterhood. And I think like if a sister like you can say like, this is what is possible, these are some of the details I can like drip into your consciousness in this palatable way. If not you, then your partner, then your mom, then, I really think that we can move the needle forward and not have people sort of in the dark anymore or be alone anymore. Like, we were not designed to do this alone.
Yeah. Daniella, I share this mission so strongly. Like what you just articulated, that is why I made this movie. And that is why you are making this podcast. Like if only we had these things when we were transitioning into motherhood, then I mean, just the exposure, just the honesty, just the glimpse into it, that I think for me, I think my expectations would have been a bit more appropriate for what was about to happen instead of like, I got this, like, I know I've been built for this. I know how to do this. And I really, not only did I not ask for help, but I had two friends tell me later when I was writing this project and everything and describing it, they said, gosh, I didn't know that you were having a hard time. You really seemed like you had it all together. I was like, what? I thought I was like crying for help. And they said, no. I was afraid to offer you help. Two separate people said this. I was afraid to offer you help because it seemed like you didn't want any.
Yeah. I mean, the social mask is so strong.
Yeah, totally.
We've been socialized to look like we're okay from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So like when we're really not okay, it's so funny. Even when I'm not okay, even my husband's like, I don't know, you just seem so strong. You seem like you got it all together. I'm like, do you have eyeballs? Like, I feel like I'm looking into them right now, but like, do they work? And the truth is like, I'm really good at masking.
Yeah.
And so many of us are, so many women are good at masking and good at, and we're also brilliant. So, you're brilliant and you're caring and you are strong. And so like, even just you at like 5% is tremendous. Yeah. It's not okay.
Right.
It's not okay that we're fooling everyone when we're fooling everyone, but sometimes that is the experience. I hope people can ask for help more.
Yes, I do too. I mean, it may be because of the last couple of years, it's gotten so bone on bone that you have to make changes in your life that I don't know. I think it's pretty clear that we as a society like can't function as well as we thought we could.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Yeah,
so glad it's clear.
There is a lot of pressure. So, part of the reason we're so good at masking is because there's so much pressure to do so, right? To be okay, to like appreciate that we're a mom and that we have a healthy baby, and and we have so many more amenities than the previous generations.
Yeah,
it's really easy to feel guilty for having fun.
It's such a guilt trip, and it's such a great way to keep women down. I just think like if we keep saying like we would never say this to a child now that we know about child psychology and the developing mind. We would never say like, you should be grateful. You can't have any of these feelings. You are a bad kid for having a hard time.
Yeah.
No. I mean, I do think sometimes I have actually gone on that tirade before, and I regret it. But that's not how it goes. That's not how
Right.
it goes. That's
Yeah.
not healthy. That's not That's not an appropriate reaction. And the gaslighting, the gaslighting of women it's a thing of the past.
Right.
We're gonna
Right.
make it a thing of the past
Yeah.
because we are grateful and we can hold duality.
Yeah. I agree wholeheartedly. I think, yeah, I admire so much what you're doing here. And I feel like when my friends now who are having babies, I often think like, okay, well, what did I want at that time? I knew I wasn't getting everything I needed. So what can I offer? And I still find that I'm not so good at knowing what another
I know,
new
yeah.
mother will need. Like, if I talk a big game about needing more support, well, what am I any good at offering it? I don't know. And I don't actually really don't think so. So I felt like I really feel
This
that
is your offering. Your movie
a
is
film
your
is the
offering.
offering, as the podcast may
Yeah.
be yours. It's like,
And
at
yeah,
least I
it's
can
true.
offer exposure, and I have channeled a lot of energy, because it takes a lot of energy to do a project like this,
Yep.
into this film as like, okay, all right, as many viewers as I hope will see the film, like, please, this is to help us be aware of. I mean, it's not a call to action film. It's awareness. It's just, and it's a story. It's so it's called Another Happy Day.
Mm-hmm.
It stars Lauren Lapkus as a new mother who is married to somebody who really seems to have the parenting thing down, and she does not. And because she can't connect to him, she can't connect to her baby, and she can't connect to strangers or old friends, she finds this sort of unexpected friendship in a distant relative, an aunt that she never knew. And they're both creative people. The protagonist, Joanna, is an artist, and her aunt is an actress. And they forged this sort of codependent friendship. So they do enjoy spending time together, but they still are separate from the outside world. And it's really a story of intergenerational friendship as much as it is about a portrait of new motherhood. That's always been something I've been interested in. And I know that's something that you're interested in.
Oh, you knew that? You knew I love old people?
Yes, because I know of your film also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There was a whole scene of Lynn Cohen getting dressed. She's this old woman, and like, I had never seen, like, we cut it out of the film, but I still have the raw footage, and like, where is it and what can I do with it? But there's a whole montage of her beautiful old body being tended to with jewelry and lipstick and a suit, all in her nursing home. I love people in general, but like, I just feel like something's up with our old people. Why are we not celebrating them more? I'm so happy to hear that you are.
Oh my gosh. I think we have a lot of the same mission. And Lynn Cohen was a beautiful, beautiful actress. And I think it's amazing that you worked with her.
Who was the actress playing the older woman?
Marilyn Dodds-Frank. And frankly, she reminds me a bit of Lynn Cohen. She's a theater, and I mean, she's a theater and film actress. She was in New York, but I knew her in Chicago. We did a play together many years ago where she was the older me, I was the younger her, and we got really close during that time. And she was
That's so cool.
I was really inspired by her. I wrote the role for her.
So cool. I'm actually working on a film now that features an older woman, and I'm like, okay, great. Maybe that lady.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Also, I want to be that lady. I want to be like old and acting and telling stories. Like,
that's so nice. It's so nice to look forward to that and not dread it. I think so many people. Oh yeah, I don't want to. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and especially if we're writing them great roles, then maybe those roles will, be there for us.
Or we can write them we could write them for us to land
Yeah.
on one day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think, man, those older perspectives,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
voices. I mean, oh,
Mm-hmm.
just think they're so special. I'm so happy she's
Mm-hmm.
featured. How many days did she work, actually? It's like such an interesting
Yeah.
phenomenon. With Lynn, we only had her for 2 days, and you can see in the film her eyes start to get really tired, and it's
Oh,
actually
no.
stunning. And it's something to be mindful of production wise. There are so many mindful bits of your production that I want to touch on, actually.
Yeah. Well, I knew that making this film, it had to, form and function had to go hand in hand. I can't make a film that's like, women need more support when they become mothers. We need a better work-life balance, and then not provide that. That felt absurd, especially
Yeah.
when the film industry is so egregiously, it just
Taxing.
takes people's lives hostage, right? We're going to work 14-hour days, but we're going to get it done. And it's kind of celebrated how the long hours, and it really cuts out a whole swath of people who would like to be working in their field that they've, trained in and worked in. But if they have children, it's really hard to make that work. So I wanted to do shorter days. Frankly, I wanted to do shorter days. Like I knew that it was already such a big swing for our family to be putting this kind of energy into a project. And I knew it would kind of swallow me up during production. But I felt like if we did the planning right, we could have shorter days.
Mm-hmm.
And I credit so much to my producer. Her name's Jessie Holder Tortelot, and she's brilliant. And she's a mother of a 1-year-old. And so it was very much on her mind. We really shared that priority. I mean, there were so many times where the priority of shorter days would have flown out the window, but we fought all the time. It was part of the ethos. It was how we hired people. To set that intention. Like the rates didn't change. We still maybe foolishly provided 2 meals. You arrived and had breakfast, and there was also a lunch, and it was still 8 hours.
Stop being so kind and supportive. Stop that. Don't be the change you want in this world.
I spent a part of the reason I think production went as smoothly as it did. It was a 20-day shoot. Was that pre-production was actually physically painful. It was so hard to prepare. I just didn't want question marks. I didn't want, for my own process as director of my first feature film, I wanted to really know what each day held, so that, and what each shot and why, and how I would talk to the actors. I mean, I created so many documents for myself that were my preparation for the vision of the film, so that I could also have a shorthand with all of the department heads, so that I knew, so that we were all on the same page, that we weren't spending our time deciding. We were spending our time playing,
executing,
and figuring it out, and discovering the thing that we'd already made the choice about. And it also meant that, I think a huge part of it was that we shot very leanly, and we shot to the edit in my head. So we weren't just getting coverage to get coverage. Okay, so we'll get the close up just because we might need it. We might need something to cut to. There were a lot of oneers and a lot of wides.
Wow.
Really choose
oneers meaning one take. Sorry, I just want to translate.
Take, one shot. Yeah, sorry.
One shot. Yeah.
So we do the a whole scene from one camera angle. The camera would not stop. We could then stop it at cut and then go again and have another take. But in the edit, you're only going to use one of them. So you really have to get the whole scene right. Like a play, which is
I was just going to say. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a theater person. Of course, I'm interested in coaching my actors to ride the wave of a whole scene. Now, it turns out in the edit, as nice as it is to not be buried in footage, I think our editor is also seeing the other side of that coin, which is she doesn't have a whole lot of other stuff to cut to.
Mm-hmm.
The shots that I chose are the shots that are mostly, that are in the film. And there isn't that much choice. We don't have the close up. Sorry. Yeah, there's a great big pause in that scene. Some people will squirm and some people won't. And
Wow.
if the pause wasn't there, would we have cut to somebody else or something else
Or
in
the flowers.
the
Yeah,
flowers?
like they're like
Right.
punch-ins. Like sometimes directors will just like, hold on a framed photo or the coffee or whatever else, and that could be a deliberate choice, and it also can be coverage, as they call it, which means, this is a long time on this person's face. I need to see their hands for a second, just so
Yes.
that I get a breather.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, it's going to be a lot quicker for you to edit, actually.
Exactly. We picture
Yeah.
locked today.
What?
Yes.
Nora,
Yes.
congratulations.
Thank
That
you.
took you 5 minutes.
I know it
I
was
mean,
really
but
no.
not,
I know, but
or
truly,
years.
I mean, we could, right. It took 6 years, but now it feels so fast. But we had the editor working during production because we knew we wanted to, like, it's towards the end of the year. We wanted to be able to make some film festival deadlines. So we kind of worked backwards from that. And, yeah, I mean, it was definitely a fast editing process. The editor herself was like, yeah, I mean, like this is the fastest process I've ever had. I could totally spend more time on this, which is, a mixed feeling. Like, part of me is like, oh gosh, like, should we? And then another part of me is like, no, let's, deadlines are good. Let's make this happen. Like, that's how theater works. Like, opening night is opening night, and you make it ready. Then again, you have the run, and it can grow and change, and you have many chances at it. But anyway, the short days felt like a huge priority because that affected everyone. And then childcare was for the parents, not only for the. I mean, it was for the parents, but it was also to demonstrate that it was a welcoming place for parents, so that even as we were talking to people who might come aboard, to be able to list it as a priority. Even though I wish there were more mothers aboard the project, there were several. But
the lead had a baby, right?
She had a baby.
The producer and you.
I had two. Our director of photography had a 12-year-old. And
that counts.
That counts. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And another featured actress had two small children, very small children.
Beautiful.
So that felt like hugely important to, like, the ethos of the film, to the fabric of, like, the story we were telling, is to be able to offer it,
You know what? I'm actually thinking the listener might not think that this is strange at all.
You're so right. An 8-hour workday with childcare provided, like, some work environments do that. The film industry
is childcare provided,
but
but they're barely. So, can you tell us what a film set without these precautions or considerations would look like, just so that we understand how very special this experience was?
Yes. Well, I mean, the film industry, it's so expensive to make a film. And as you often hear about film, time is money. So oftentimes it's a day. Things are broken down into how many days of a shoot there are. And a day costs X amount of dollars. So you want to get as much done in each day. So that means that if you really want to get a lot done, you have a long work day, like 14 hours. And there are, of course, stipulations for overtime. But I think the calculus is often that overtime is clicking on over to overtime is still more affordable to the production than having a longer production time.
More days. So more hours in each day is actually less expensive for the production than more days in the life of the shooting time.
Absolutely. Like, and that, I mean, a clear example of that is you rent your camera gear. You rent your camera gear, not for the hours in the day, but the amount of days you'll have it. So if you are on a budget, which every film is, regardless of how high the budget is, ours was very, modest. So we're calculating, okay, we want the camera gear for the shortest amount of time that we can make this film. But how much time does this film really need to take? well. It's a bit of a calculus between what you can afford and what you need and all those things. But a typical film production would probably, especially in the independent scene when money is so tight, like it would click into 14-hour days pretty quickly. And there's a bit of that, like, and theater has this too, like this sort of like pride in it. Like we love this so much and we're just going to barrel through, and there's a bit of a high and everyone's in it together. Anyway, that can be, one of those cultural norms that gets established, and then you're proud of it, but it really is problematic.
Right. It's also problematic for the working parent, male or female, by the way.
Absolutely.
Because even if you're shooting for 14 hours, like the drivers on set, right? They're there for a long time, hours and hours and hours. And they likely have families also. So what you provided was a touch base for the families to be together during the day, during lunchtime, for the child. And also, like, these lower budget films, these independent films, they don't pay a huge amount of money a day for an actor or for the crew. We do it for the love of the craft. Mm-hmm. And often you would have to pay a babysitter. You would have to pay a babysitter $20 an hour to take care of your child while you're getting paid. Now, SAG minimum, meaning the union, is about $100 a day. That means it would cost the parent to be a part of the production, which often parents will sign up for, but how many times until they're pushed out of the profession? Right. So what Nora so beautifully advocated and worked towards is something incredible and something that I have never seen. I have never seen it. When my friend posted it on Instagram, we were both like, is this even a thing?
Oh, I'm so glad we connected over it, because obviously we care about the same thing so deeply. A part of doing it is to set a precedent for it, to say, if it can be done at this budget level, then there is no excuse for a shorter day and childcare being provided on a larger set.
Wow. Well, where can we find more about you and the film moving forward so that we can celebrate and build on top of this success and this cultural movement?
Well, thanks, Daniella. So the film is called Another Happy Day. I'm on Instagram at Another Happy Day Film, and I have a website, anotherhappydayfilm.com. Ideally the film will be out into the world next year, hopefully in the film festival circuit, and then somewhere that everyone can see it. That's the idea.
The film festival circuit, you could probably see these updates on the website or Instagram, and like, hey, if it's in Chicago, you can come see it before anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's cool. I love the lead of your film. I think she's so funny, just like as a person, like even just like the way she, just the way she is. She just has a really humorous, likable quality, and so I'm excited to see her performance and your writing and your directing. I've been a fan for so long of yours, and
oh my gosh. Likewise. And I just want to say that when I saw you in Ocean's 8, okay, Daniella, I went on my birthday to see this film. I was like, this cast is amazing. I'm going to take myself out on my birthday and I'm going to watch this movie. And like the first moments I was like, oh my God, this is so personally exciting. But also, may I just say that in that star-studded film, it is the best scene in the film and you are the best actress in the film. That scene is so good.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Is the best scene in the movie. I was like, this movie's going to be great. And then I was like, that was the scene. Like, that's what I came for. Bye-bye.
Like 5 minutes in. Did you know that I was 8 months pregnant with Ness in that scene?
No.
Yeah, just like what a great tie-up. I was 8 weeks pregnant when I auditioned.
Oh
And
my God.
they pushed it and pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And the casting director, who is still a friend who lives around the corner, and the writer, who also happens to be around the corner, we were not friends before this, advocated on my behalf. And I will say it was advocating, because just as you so beautifully told us the story about playing Mipris as a pregnant woman, which could totally have been
Yes.
possible, and that casting director didn't advocate on your behalf. This
Mhm.
casting director did. Her name is Shayna Markowitz.
Oh
The writer
my
is
God.
Olivia Milch. They are both mothers. They are incredible. They were not mothers at the time, but they were like, wait, shop girls can be pregnant. I don't know what the problem is.
Right, right, right.
WB. And there it
Oh
was.
my God.
And there was the best scene in the film, says Nora Pfeiffer.
Truly. Oh my God. Oh my God. I think about it. You're so great. You're so great. And I love what you're doing,
Thanks.
Daniela. Thank you for
Thank you.
inviting me here.
Thank you for coming on, really, and thank you for the work you're doing.